Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Upper Darby High School. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. A couple of housekeeping items. Our presentation is being recorded this evening, so we will be posting this on our webpage. In addition to the presentation, we're also going to formulate an FAQ for some commonly asked questions and answers. As a result of your questions tonight, we're going to show you how to post questions as a result of tonight's meeting, okay? And we will post that information as a follow-up to tonight's meeting. So you can reference it again, and then for anyone who is unable to be here tonight, we're going to provide a recording and some Q&A as a result of tonight's meeting, okay? So I just want to give you an idea of who is in the room, in addition to all of you. This is Mr. James Finch. He is our scheduler for the high school. Mr. Russell Bendon is here. He is the assistant principal for the 11th grade class this year. Mr. B.J. Hensel is the assistant principal for the 12th grade this year. Mr. Wayne Remy is the assistant principal for the 10th grade this year. Ms. Jill Palladino is our assistant principal for climate and culture. And Dr. Greg Manfrey is our director of secondary education. What we're going to ask this evening is to hold your questions for the end. We're going to provide a QR code this evening for you to utilize to post all of your questions. We are balancing our schedule with summer stage, so we are on a time crunch. Not that I'm going to rush, but we do have some shared time with summer stage, as you can see our scenery here. So we're going to go through and provide as much information as we can tonight. I'll walk you through the agenda. We're going to provide a QR code for all question submission. And like I said, we will go through all of the questions, formulate a FAQ, provide a copy of the video so you can reference. I will ask that any individualized questions about specific to your child, I'm definitely recommending to reach out to the grade level center. As you can see, most of our assistant principals for the grade level are here. Ms. Sitek is not here tonight. She is on vacation, but the grade level centers would be more than happy to help you. So if you have specific questions about your child, I'm definitely recommending you reach out to them to get help and some answers, okay? All right, so just as you can see the agenda tonight, we're going to go over learning models. Before we go into the new schedule, the Bell schedule, I do want to talk about the different options that students have at the high school in terms of the learning environment that they can choose, go over some assumptions about the schedule, go through the Bell schedule and some particulars in detail about the extension, flex period, the music changes, the CTE impact, and our changes to our reading-supported ELA classes. And then again, we'll follow up with the QR code to provide an opportunity for you to ask those questions or pose those questions, okay? So just a reminder, we had sent out a survey about selecting your learning model. There are 3 models in particular: in-person instruction, synchronous online learning, and asynchronous instruction. The survey at this time is now closed, but you had the opportunity, if you wanted your son or daughter to participate in synchronous learning, you had the option to do so. So we do have, if you fit out the survey, we are scheduling your son or daughter to participate synchronously. If you did not fill out that survey, the default was in-person instruction, okay? If you were to choose asynchronous instruction, which means you are not coming in person, you are not having your son or daughter log in synchronously, you are to do so at central registration. Central registration is located on the high school campus. It is by the main gym area. So if you want your son or daughter to participate in an asynchronous learning model, you need to do so at central registration. If you are having your son or daughter come in person, you didn't have to do anything with the survey. That is the default. They will be scheduled accordingly. But if you did want your son or daughter to be participating in a synchronous model, you did have to complete that survey. So I did want to review that just to make sure that that was clear. Again, if you have any discrepancies, any questions, any concerns, please feel free to reach out to us individually after tonight, and we will definitely walk you through and help you through that process. Okay, we're going to go through this in detail, but I just want to highlight some of the main components of the schedule and the changes. The AM extensions, think of it like this. The classes that, prior to the pandemic were 79 minutes in person, block classes. The classes are still going to remain, actually they're going to be two minutes longer, 81 minutes. But 21 minutes of that course is going to be in an asynchronous format in the morning. So the extension periods are directly tied to the block in-person synchronous periods in the afternoon. So when you see that on your son or daughter's schedule, and I'll show you what that looks like a couple slides later, but they are extension periods. So you might see B1E. E just means the extension of block 1, the asynchronous portion of that course. Students in our low incidence program, they will participate in a full day of instruction. So the students in our low incidence program will come in at 7:30 and leave at 2:41. That is every day. So they will have 5 days a week, full day in person, or if you choose synchronous instruction, and that's going to be a family discretion or IEP team decision. But we are providing full day instruction for our students in our low incidence program. The flex period, which is new, the flex period is provided to accommodate what used to be called our skinny period. For those of you who are familiar with our old schedule, the flex period will also be where students are going to eat lunch. We're going to get into some details about that in a little bit. But the flex period is a time in the schedule where students will get that extra support in the area of advanced placement, EL, intervention, additional special education supports, our WIN program, our WIN students, What I Need. So that flex period is provided in addition to the asynchronous extension, in addition to the block period, and it will also be where our students will eat lunch. We do have alternative bell schedules. I'm not going to go into all of them in great detail, but we do have alternative schedules. So you will see throughout the year when we have testing, we will be sending information. We'll be posting those schedules, obviously on our web and online through Schoology, but we will have alternative schedules to accommodate our testing as it pertains to Keystone, MAP, PSAT. If it pertains to your son or daughter, you will be notified, most likely by invitation, and specifically if it impacts your child. You will also notice that there are going to be alternative schedules on Wednesdays. Wednesdays we have in the morning will be the only morning where the asynchronous time is not tied to the core class, meaning students will not be required to have asynchronous work maybe due that day or working on the asynchronous portion of the course Wednesday mornings. That time will be allotted for additional student support, logging in with teachers, getting extra work done, catching up. A lot of what came out of meeting with our students this past year is that they really like that break time. They really like that time to catch up. So we did build that into this schedule. In addition to that morning time, we also created an extended flex schedule. And the reason for that is we've incorporated our social emotional learning and our PBIS program on Wednesdays. It'll be on a rotating basis. 1 week will be a PBIS lesson. The next week will be a lesson on social emotional learning. Prior to the pandemic, the district was very committed to supporting our students' well-being. And as you can imagine, now more than ever, we need to support our students' well-being. So we are incorporating that into the flex period every Wednesday. So there will be an alternative schedule to add additional time to that flex period to provide that lesson. And also on Wednesdays, that is also our early dismissal schedule. So once a month, pretty much, the students get out at 1 o'clock to provide professional development time for our teachers. So there will be an extended flex Wednesday schedule, and there will be an extended flex early dismissal Wednesday schedule. I know that seems like a lot, I know, trust me. But we are going to do our best to be transparent and communicate as best we can, but I just wanted to highlight that because that's definitely a change to our current bell schedule. All right, so here is our standard bell schedule. As you can see, you have 7:30 start, so nothing's changing in terms of the start of the day. And we end the day at 2:41, as we do now. Our Block 1E, 2E, 3E, and 4E. That means it's the extended portion of the course for whatever block is in the afternoon. So students will have 4 blocks of instruction, core classes, core meaning any class they're scheduled for, whether it's an art, a music, a social studies, and English. It's whatever the student is scheduled for is the term that we use to define core classes. And each of the extensions are 21 minutes apiece. So there's an extension period tied to each of the 4 blocks in the afternoon. The blocks could be in person or synchronous online learning, depending on your child's preference. Students at that time have the ability to get work done, the work assigned, the asynchronous work assigned by the teacher. They have the ability at that time, teachers will be readily available, links posted, and at any moment, at any time, when your son or daughter needs help, the teachers will be there waiting, ready to help. So the teacher will come in, they'll get settled, they'll put their link on, and they are there for the morning. So let's just say, for example, your son or daughter decides that in Block 1E they don't really need help. They don't have to log in at 7:30 to get help for Block 1. The teachers are going to be available for all of their courses all morning. That's the whole point of the flexibility. It's what's going to work best for your child. Some students may not utilize that time that way. They may not need help. They may just need to get work done. They may never log in with the teacher. They may log in with the teacher every day if they need to. They also may be a child that gets their work done at night. So as long as they're getting their work done at night, they need the time to sleep in the morning, they can. It's really what's going to work for them. That's the whole purpose of this being flexible. So it's really tailored to meet the needs of our students depending on their demands, their schedule, their work schedule, whatever they need. After that, students will, can you go back? Sorry, Mr. Finch. Thank you. After the asynchronous portion of the morning, students will start to transition to the building. As you can see, transition time is 8:54 to 9:41. So there's 51 minutes of transition time, whether the students are walking or taking the bus. 9:45. Sorry, what did I say? 9:55? Sorry. Oh, sorry. 51 minutes, 9:45. Sorry. And then Block 1 will start at 9:45. So during that time, students are transitioning to the building. Teachers are in the hallways helping students get to their Block 1. And Block 1 starts at 9:45. The in-person synchronous course is 60 minutes long. So there's 21 minutes asynchronous time. There's 60 minutes in-person synchronous instruction. The students go from Block 1 to Block 2, and then they transition to their flex and their lunch. So from Block 2, there will be stations, different food stations in the hallways throughout the building. Students are expected to leave Block 2, go to the food station, grab their food, and then go to their flex home base, we're calling it. So you'll start to hear that term quite often, their flex home base. The reason we're using that term is because some students may not stay in the same flex every day, but they all have a home base so that we have accountability and they can check in. And then students will have the option to eat during that flex period. It can look a little different depending on the class, depending on the student. Students may choose to eat and then work. Students may choose to work while they eat. Students may choose to eat then work. So it really does provide some flexibility depending on what's happening in that classroom and the course. And then we added the 36 minutes because that was feedback from the public and the board to allow more time for students to eat so they weren't rushed. And so we were able to accommodate that and change the schedule framework a little bit to make that accommodation. And then students will transition to their Block 3 and then end the day at their Block 4. And then this is just an example of what the bell schedule will look like. As I said, on the Wednesday flex extension, as you can see, the morning will stay the same. The students will have time to get whatever type of support they need. Teachers will be readily available all morning. The transition time is the same. And then we adjusted the time of the blocks in the afternoon to accommodate the PBIS and SEL lessons that we will do in the flex, not to take away time from flex or lunch. We just added the 20 minutes to that time period to accommodate the SEL, or social emotional learning, and PBIS lessons. And then every so often we have an early dismissal to provide professional development for our teachers, and we've adjusted the schedule. Same thing. The asynchronous time in the morning would remain the same. The transition would remain the same. And then we adjusted the time for the block to accommodate for the SEL PBIS lessons and the early dismissal for our teachers and for our students. All right, so a little bit more detail about the extension. As I said, they're linked to the block courses. What we're going to be sharing with teachers, because this is new for them as well, but think of your lesson plan for the 79 minutes prior to the pandemic. We're just saying that 21 minutes of that now is shifted to a different place, but it's the same concept. Teachers didn't stand up and lecture for 79 minutes before the pandemic, and we certainly don't want them doing that after the pandemic. So, the classroom makeup is different. There is group work, there is discussion, there is independent time. It's the same thing, just a little bit flipped. If you think of it like that, it's just that time in the block that traditionally existed, it's just put in a different place in the schedule. Again, students can meet with their teachers synchronously during that time for help. Teachers will be available every day, and students don't have to if they don't want to. So if that doesn't work for them, they need to just get their work done, they need to sleep in, they got their work done the night before, that's okay too. There will be no penalty for students if they're not logging in and meeting with the teacher. It's really there for them if they need it. And like I said, the flex period. So what happens in the flex period is there's a lot going on in the flex period. It really does depend on the student needs. Some students will receive additional reading or math intervention during that time, depending on the student's IEP. The AP, or Advanced Placement Extension, periods will happen during the flex. So if it's the opposite semester of their block AP course. For those of you who don't know, or maybe new, or 8th grade families coming in, our AP courses are a 1.5 credit. So in the old schedule, it was a block period and what we called a skinny period, or half a block. Now what will happen is if the students are scheduled for an AP course, let's say in the first semester in their block, they would get their AP flex extension period in the opposite semester. The reason for that is Upper Darby, the high school, felt, and this has been in existence for quite some time, but felt that they wanted our AP students to have exposure all year long in preparation for the test. They didn't want students to have it one semester versus the other. They wanted to have students have exposure all year long. So the students will get a block in one semester, and whatever the opposite semester, they will get a flex extension. Depending on other needs, your son or daughter could receive gifted services. So some days they could be getting gifted services during the flex. Other days they could be getting AP extension. So it really does depend on their schedule. They could have multiple AP courses, extensions in the flex. Mr. Finch, who is our scheduler here, has tried and done an awesome job of trying to balance our students with our AP courses so they don't have multiple flex periods in the same semester. So he's really trying to balance if they have a block in one to make the extension in the other, and then vice versa. There's definitely going to be a situation where they have more than 2 AP courses, and they will rotate through that extension during the flex if that is the case. And like I said, they're eating lunch. Again, to reiterate, there'll be various stations throughout the building. There will also be a vegetarian option every day in addition to the daily lunch menu. So that we will provide a vegetarian option every day to accommodate students with those needs. And at this time, I am going to turn it over to Mr. Finch to talk a little bit about our music program changes.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming, and for those of you who are watching at home or the recording, thank you for watching as well. It's nice to be over here and not be blinded by the light that's coming right down the middle. You can actually see something now. That's nice. So, in working with the the scheduling committee, we met with a lot of different stakeholders, and one big, huge thing that they all said was they want to maintain that history and that tradition of music at Upper Darby High School. So that was a big focus of this new scheduling model, and one that we really collaborated with the music department on. Okay, so we met with the music department, and we really wrote this new music schedule with them. So what we added was we added these music performance ensemble concentrations. Okay, so in our old schedule, the pre-pandemic schedule, students would, if they wanted music, would have to kind of fight with lunch or fight with APs or, have other types of conflicts for their musics. So what we did was we came up with a way using cycles that students can participate in up to 3 of these music ensembles in the regular schedule, okay? And by what I mean by in the regular schedule, it'll be scheduled in blocks 1, 2, 3, and 4, just like a normal class, whereas in our pre-pandemic schedule, it wasn't scheduled like that, like a regular block class, okay? So now students, when they are enrolled in these performance concentrations, they don't have to participate in all 3 that are available in that period. Okay, so they can participate in either one ensemble and then have 2 days of small group work or sectional work or independent practice. They can participate in 2 ensemble rehearsals and that one day have small sectional work and independent practice, or they can take advantage of all 3 of them. Okay, so it really opens up a lot of musical opportunities for our students. And what I put on there, so students who are not rehearsing with their full ensembles on a particular day will be able to meet with their sectional music teacher and, work on some music for that sectional or do independent practice. If there's certain things that they want to work on themselves, they can go ahead and do that. Okay, so here are our concentrations. We're going to offer 2 concentrations. And they were really grouped up by what students, tended to request the most of together. Okay, so our concentration 1 is going to be open for any students who want to participate in choir, orchestra, and concert band. All right, and if students are in that concentration 1, they're going to rotate through those 3 ensembles, if they want to do all 3, on a 3-day basis. So when I say rotate through those ensembles, I don't mean like in the same day they'll be doing all 3 of those ensembles. I mean on Monday they'll be doing choir. On Tuesday they'll be doing orchestra. On Wednesday they'll be doing concert band. And then that rotation will start over again. Okay? Our music concentration 2 will be our encores, our chorus, and our wind ensemble. Again, students may participate in all 3 of those in that concentration 2, or just do, if they just wanted to do wind ensemble, on the days when encore and chorus are meeting, they could meet with their wind ensemble instructor and work on, small sectional work or independent practice on wind ensemble music. Now, we also, in the flex period, are going to have some music offerings as well. Now, we're really trying to get students to participate in those concentrations because that's what's going to give them the most exposure to those musical programs. But the flex is open for students who aren't able to participate in a full year concentration or just want to participate in maybe one music ensemble and not, do multiple of them. And we have I put the flex period schedule that's up there as well. And again, on the flex period, that's going to rotate through on a daily basis. Okay, so if a student wanted to do, for example, jazz ensemble, okay, what would that look like? Jazz ensembles offered in the flex, if they want to do jazz ensemble in the flex, on Monday and Wednesday. So on the flex period, Monday and Wednesday, they would be reporting to the music room and doing jazz ensemble. Then if they don't have a music flex on the other days, they're going to be going to their flex home base that Mrs. Simone was talking about and participate in what they're working on in that flex home base. And they also may be going to an AP that runs in the flex or some other type of intervention or support. And additionally, on top of the flex offerings for music, if the flex doesn't work in a student's schedule, and if a concentration doesn't work in a student's schedule, we're still offering our after-school programs in their entirety as well this year, just like in the pre-pandemic model. Next, I'm going to talk about the CTE program. Okay, so still offering the full CTE program. We have our AM session of CTE is going to start run from 7:45 to 10:30. Okay, so they'll arrive at the high school at 11:10. Now, students who have the AM session of CTE are going to participate in our flex period and blocks 3 and 4 at Upper Darby High School. The PM session of CTE, those students are going to start at the high school. They're going to do block 1 at the high school and then transition to CTE for the PM. Okay, so with the career and technology education or career and technical education, one big change, and it isn't really apparent on this slide and won't be very apparent to you guys, but in the pre-pandemic model, when we had a student go into CTE, CTE made their assignment and told us whether they were going to be an AM or PM, and we had to kind of build around that. One thing with our new schedule is we're taking that ability back. So we're going to be able to, work with our students and see what our students need and assign them to either AM or PM accordingly. And that's going to go by, grade level, IEP needs, student graduation needs, and just the student's educational team. But for future planning, what we're going to do is prioritize the AM VOTEC for students that are juniors, okay, and then the PM VOTEC for our seniors. And then, of course, like I said, that they will, depending on IEP team and student intervention need, we will adjust that accordingly. And I'm going to hand it back over for Ms. Simone to talk about reading.
So one of the other changes that I want to highlight is our reading-supported ELA courses in 9th and 10th grade. So what we were able to do is infuse a high level of reading concentration into some of our English classes for our students that need that reading support, which we're really excited about. So what that looks like is students will still, if they're not in need of reading support, will still take the traditional English 9 research and writing course for 2 English credits. If they're 10th graders, they will still be eligible to take the American Lit course or another course of their choosing, American Studies, if they are not in need of reading support. If they're in need of reading support, what that will look like is students will participate in a reading concentration ELA class, which means 60 minutes of that course will be devoted to reading instruction. The reading specialist and the English teacher will work together in a co-teaching model and rotate through reading concentration, English 9 standards, and research and writing standards. They will use the in-person time mainly for reading instruction, and then the asynchronous time with the ability to log in synchronously with their ELA teacher through that morning period. The idea is that at the midpoint or the semester mark, depending on the progress that the student or the child makes, we would then look to maybe revise that schedule depending on their progress. Students may be eligible at that point to then transition into the ELA, English 9 Research and Writing, or if they're a 10th grade student, the American Lit full year class without the reading concentration. So there'll be a reevaluation of all that student progress, student data, and then we will be adjusting student schedules. The focus is that if we give them what they need in a high dose, focused, daily, then they will then make the progress that we know they can make. They will acquire the skill set that they need to then help them navigate through the rest of that content, then receiving a higher concentration of the research and writing and English 9, English 10 standards. So again, we have created a new curriculum, an adapted curriculum, working with the ELA teachers, the reading specialists, and our supervisor, Ms. Kenya. They're actually working on that this summer. So we're really excited about that change. We really feel this is going to benefit our students, provide a lot of support for our students that are struggling readers, and hopefully make the gains. We're already seeing that progress with our Read 180 and System 44 program. We actually have less students coming up from the middle schools needing reading intervention than in previous years because we've implemented that program in lower levels. So we're really excited about the gains that we're seeing. We're hoping that it just continues and that students need less and less reading support at the high school level, and that's the idea.
Good evening, everyone. I appreciate your attention. I wasn't planning on saying anything, but I think that the team here at the high school has done such a wonderful job, and the scheduling committee has done such a phenomenal job. Mr. Lambert at Central Administration was also part of this team. And I just want to make sure that everybody understands what the impetus for this was. This, contrary to what many people believe is true, is not a result of the pandemic, but rather the pandemic provided us the opportunity to do this. Prior to the pandemic, Mr. Marshallak, our Assistant Superintendent for Student Services, and a committee of people were examining the possibility of doing a late start here at the high school based upon the Commonwealth's sleep study that basically recommended to high schools that they start later. And so this was a result of the sleep study, and the pandemic, because of the additional funds that we received from the state and federal government, provided us the opportunity to put this into place through the fact that now we are a one-to-one school district in terms of devices. And so the scheduling team, came up with a creative way of using that new influx of technology to create a schedule where kids would not have to get up at 6:30 or 6:45 in order to be here at 7:30, that they could do that work from their home if they wanted to. And I want to thank Mrs. Simone for highlighting the fact that asynchronous work by its very definition means that the student is not required to do that work at a given period of time during the day. If they work better at night, they can do that work at night. It is an extension of the block. And I want to reiterate one other thing that Mrs. Simone said that I think is really, really important. When we talk about core, Mrs. Simone and I sometimes have a disagreement about terminology. When we're talking about core, we're not talking about math, science, social studies, and ELA. The terminology at the high school, core, means any course that your children are scheduled for in that semester. That means math, language arts, science, and social studies, but it also can mean music. It also can mean family and consumer science. It also can mean technology. So all of what we offer here in Upper Darby High School is continuing the same way as it always has. But I thought it very important, very, very important to make sure that you understood where this is coming from. This is coming from the sleep study and the possibility that eventually we could be required to come up with some kind of creative schedule and avoid additional transportation costs and additional costs that we estimated could be well over millions of dollars. So I want to thank Mr. Finch. I want to thank Mrs. Simone. I want to thank the team here, Mr. Bendit, Mr. Hensel, Mrs. Palladino, Mr. Remy, and Mrs. Sitek, who's not with us tonight, along with Mr. Lambert and the parents who joined us on this scheduling committee, and most importantly, your children, your students who joined us on this scheduling committee and participated in coming up with this very creative, I think, very good schedule that meets the needs of our students. And the flexibility within this schedule is something that we heard loud and clear from our students. So with that, you have the QR code here. We would like your questions. We will create an FAQ similar to the way we've created FAQs in the past as far as facilities and things like that. But I definitely wanted to at least touch base on the why. Why are we here? So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Mrs. Simone.
The only other thing I want to add is that we did revise the course selection guide. So I do want to draw your attention to, and it should be posted. If it's not, it will be very, very shortly. But in the course selection guide, it now identifies courses that can only be scheduled in person. So this is very important. We are going to have to look at student schedules and see if students selected to be synchronous or asynchronous, and they selected a course that could be offered in person only. We will have to make that adjustment. So we will be reaching out to students and families if that's the case. But I definitely want to draw your attention to that. And moving forward, this will now be a part of our normal course selection process. Because we were a part of the high school scheduling committee and we didn't get certain permissions or certain approval for changes till later in the school year, it changed how we operated. But moving forward now, this will all be included in our normal course selection process. Students will be able to identify their learning models, and counselors will be able to walk them through their graduation pathways and what courses are most important and that they're eligible to take. But there are courses now outlined in the selection guide. We worked with department chairs, with teachers, with supervisors, with curriculum directors. Sure, sorry. It is on our webpage. If you go to the high school page, I believe it's under Forms and Documents. The course selection guide should be there. So if you're having any trouble finding that too, please reach out to us. But again, in there, we tried to create a key, a guide, a little icon. If it has a little person next to it in that selection guide, that means it's only offered in person. And we will adjust your child's schedule if need be, if it impacts your child's schedule. All right. So with that, here is the QR code. Please post. We're going to get all of the questions that you post. Dr. Manfrey, myself, the team, we're going to look through all the questions. We're going to post an FAQ to answer as many of them as possible. And then we'll also post the video of this evening so that you have as a reference, or anyone that missed tonight can also reference it. And please reach out to your grade level center if you have specific questions about your child. Okay? All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.